What's up, nerds? We're back with another video. Sorry I haven't been making a lot of these. I've been too busy keeping my house together, starting a company. I know, in your mom's laundromat business. Avoiding the plague that's been around every corner, haunting us daily in and out. Yeah, normal stuff like that. I filmed this video last night, but then the audio was shit. And then I just started filming this video about halfway through it, and then my camera battery, which was fully charged, just stopped working. It's on, God bless. I don't know why it's on again. I didn't do anything, it just magically turned on this time. So maybe it's time for a checkup on the old camera. Maybe I can even get a new one, get some wider angles in this bitch. You guys would love that, wouldn't you? I know I would. It's also like 11 o'clock right now, and I feel like shit. And I'm kinda not gonna lie, in the video you'll see I do a bit where I drink some scotch, and so we're a little buzzing. I'm 21, right hand to God. So, as you guys can already tell, we're in a different setting this time. We're not at my desk, we're not at the living room, we're in the basement with some pink lights and blue lights and LEDs and a bunch of crazy shit. Why? We'll get to that, we'll get to why. Stop worrying so much. If you guys don't know what Vaporwave is, put very bluntly, it's largely defined as the genre of having slowed and skewed samples of like 80s and 90s and 70s and even 60s soul and R&B samples, slowed down, cut, skewed, chopped, however you want. That is it put very bluntly as far as this genre of music goes. And you may be thinking like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I never even heard anything like that. First of all, you're wrong. You've definitely heard this song. That's like the Vaporwave song. If someone asks you like, oh, what's Vaporwave, you play them that to make it make more sense. But in retrospect, it's kind of boring. It's a little slow. It isn't that interesting musically, but it's the most important Vaporwave song, you could say. It's iconic. It's the most iconic Vaporwave song. That's for sure. That's not all Vaporwave is. That's Vaporwave, but that isn't, the Vaporwave. Vaporwave has a very distinct aesthetic. Like a lot of genres of music, you think of jazz, you got, seedy nightclubs, cigarette smoke, you get people up there in the limelight just playing away. Hip-hop, you got people on yachts and their ass shaking and money and guns and stuff. And then with rock and roll, you got, heroin in the vein, girls in denim with ripped jeans just doing their thing, cigarette smokes, back alleys, people getting punched in the face. That's, every genre of music has its own aesthetic. Vaporwave is unique in the respect that, like other genres of music, aesthetics got pasted onto them because of what the scene was like, what the artists were like, what the times were like. But Vaporwave was invented on the internet, for the internet, and so they kind of got to pick what aesthetic they wanted to be attached to it. And because of that, you have a really interesting and a very self-aware aesthetic choices and aesthetic styles. You get this beautiful synergy of people choosing the aesthetic and heavily memeing and heavily referencing and talking a lot about the aesthetic of Vaporwave. Vaporwave isn't just the music. The aesthetics of Vaporwave is just as important as the music is. They aren't, you can't separate them. They're together. And the aesthetic of Vaporwave it's very, I guess you could say it's unique. I mean, I can see people finding it derivative or ironic or too ironic and postmodern maybe even, but it's hear me out for a second. So a lot of the Vaporwave aesthetic comes from repurposing corporate logos, like a Pepsi logo. You can see a lot of Crystal Pepsi bullshit, Coke stuff, brands from the 90s, NASA logos, that kind of shit. Internet iconography, early technology. You got your VHS tapes with the cool crazy colors on it and the geometric patterns and that sort of thing. Here's some, you see the pictures, you kind of get the fucking idea. And I know you get the idea because recently, as of maybe 5 years ago, after people stopped trying to bite off of like Golf Wang stuff and Odd Future stuff, and now they're all kind of biting the Vaporwave, at least like the same vibe that Vaporwave stuff gives off. Vaporwave as a whole is very heavily ironic, very sarcastic. There's like a nice tinge of like depression and melancholy laid on top of it. And you see this all the time in fucking department stores with shirts that are like yeah, I'm sad, so what? Or like a bunch of sad faces and that kind of shit. And listen, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're biting it. I mean, that's what happens, is something is cool and then it gets bit and then it becomes mainstream and then it falls off. And that's not me being a hipster, it's just the way shit works. And if it's cool enough, it sticks around, becomes an iconic thing, it becomes a staple. That right there, that's already, Vaporwave already paved the way for that. And you see it all the time now. My fucking pop filter fell down. Now, with all this sampling of old songs and repurposing of old imagery, you may be thinking, wow, this is awfully lazy. But I'm feeling a strange feeling. What is that feeling? Is that nostalgia I feel? Yeah, it's nostalgia I feel. Nostalgia is a really important part of Vaporwave. They want to elicit as much nostalgia as they can, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek in a way, but it is also a handy way to make your music easier to listen to and get people attached to it more, is whenever it's catering to that kind of age group and people that grew up with that stuff. Of course, you can become attached to it faster. I don't think it's done in that much of a malicious way that you might see from Disney. Instead of making new IPs, they're just repurposing their old stuff and then making it into a live-action movie, devoid of soul and everything that made the original great, and just making you watch a thing you've watched before, but now it's got Jason Momoa in it. Nostalgia is to Vaporwave what being sad is to Aubrey. And the nostalgia isn't just for the imagery either, it's definitely ingrained in the music as well. They're sampling old songs that you might not have heard, but you heard somebody play it maybe once and it sounds oddly familiar, like those pictures of like ball pits and hotel pools that you've seen, and you know you weren't there, but like maybe you were there, or at least you know what it would have felt like to be there. That's kind of what Vaporwave's like. It's just out of the realm of possibility that you heard it before, but it's still familiar. And you get that in a lot of albums too. People using old Windows startup sound effects, a lot of that kind of stuff. And I know I'm writing Vaporwave's dick a lot here. It isn't the most original, brilliant thing that's ever happened. Sampling music's been around for a while. Hip-hop sampling is a staple as far as production goes. Especially plunderphonics. Plunderphonics is another kind of music genre that does that a lot. They just repurpose and sample. I mean, that's what DJ fucking Shadow's whole career got built on. Vaporwave's doing it in a very self-aware kind of way. You know how boomers are always saying like, oh, whatever, they're stealing this song from another song and using it in their song? That's so lazy. Vaporwave is saying, yeah, no, it is. We're doing it really lazily, but we don't really care at all.
No, it's illegal. Download copyrighted music. I'm taking you in.
Pay for music, never legally download.
That song I played for you earlier, that's a sample of a Diana Ross song. And Diana Ross isn't like a small artist. People know who the fuck Diana Ross is, and they weren't worried about having to get samples cleared and make sure it could go on the radio and stuff. They just wanted to make a song that was cool. And maybe thinking, god damn, this sounds a lot like some shit that I hear in elevators and at Kmart. Well, that's how Vaporwave kinda got started. What people went into a fucking frenzy when some mega bass Chad Giga Sigma grind set legend hunter biter crack smoking legend leaked the Kmart library onto the internet, and then everyone started sampling it and having a ton of fun with it. A big meme among the Vaporwave people that listen to it in the community is that Vaporwave is dead. It's a fun little thing that they watched happen, and they watched it evolve and go in the crazy different subgenres and that kind of thing. And now it's dead. That's the whole meme, is that Vaporwave is dead now. Even though it's not as alive as it once was, it's still definitely permeating through pop culture. This is where doing the video a year later actually became a big advantage, because a lot of things I'm mentioning here, like the themes of Vaporwave, is that it's repurposing old stuff, so that way it's kind of immune from the criticism of being redundant and get away, fly, lazy, and like too self-aware for its own good. The funny thing is that over the past year or so, the whole hyper pop kind of scene has popped up as well, and it shares a lot of common themes with the Vaporwave scene. It's very heavily ironic. It knows it's annoying, but it doesn't really care. It reuses a lot of the same tropes throughout song to song, the high pitches, the loud claps. I love hyperpop, and I love Vaporwave, and Vaporwave is kind of doing that before hyperpop came around. They were doing things that were heavily ironic, a big overlay of like depression and drugs, and unabashedly making things hyper just to show you, like, this is the outcome if we keep going this way. Lord, forgive me for reading something off of Reddit. Global capitalism is nearly there. At the end of the world, there will only be liquid advertisement and gaseous desire. Sublimated from our bodies, our untethered senses will endlessly ride escalators through pristine artificial environments, more and less than human, drugged up and drugged down, cataclysed, consuming and consumed by rich economy of sensory information valued by the pixel. The virtual plaza welcomes you, and you welcome it. I mean, that's pretty fucking funny. They set up this whole little fake world for Vaporwave to exist in. It isn't really for right now, it's for this different cyberpunky and dystopian kind of future, is that this is what things will end up like. If these flies don't fucking leave me alone, I swear to God. There's also a kind of sense that goes through Vaporwave of glorifying capitalism to a very hilarious extent. That's kind of deeper into the rabbit hole of like the almost role-playing online persona that Vaporwave has. If you're not just sticking to the music and aesthetics purely, if you go a little deeper into it, similar to Cyberpunk, where it's like, yeah, it's really cool, we have robots and crazy laser guns, but also everyone's impoverished and everything sucks. And so not to be like, well, if you don't like it because you find it derivative and annoying and not original, I don't want to say that's kind of the point, but I think to dismiss it as just being those things would be, you'd be maybe missing the point of it. Editor Seth here. Quick note, if you dismiss it, you're gonna be missing out on a lot of very sincere musicianship and a lot of sincere love for the genre. I really hark on it being ironic and self-aware to kind of try and help people that are hesitant to enjoy it or pay attention to it, but there is a lot of very sincere musicianship and a lot of very sincere love for the genre, so keep that in mind. It's very aware of what it is. It's not trying to be anything groundbreaking, although there are some really, really great albums that fit under the category of Vaporwave. You've got Floral Shop, which is kind of the Bible of Vaporwave. It's maybe the least interesting of the most iconic records, but it's still worth a listen if you want to get into it. Birth of a New Day from 2814. I'll Try Living Like This by Death's Dynamic Shroud. Banshee's always doing really great shit. Julian showed me one of their records. That's a really good one with the head on it. And you got George Clanton. He's like borderline Vaporwave, maybe kinda. He's more like Plunderphonics, but he's still considered Vaporwave to some people. I love that record Slide. There's a bunch of different subgenres, and it's all like hilariously subjugated out in different categories because the Vaporwave community kind of finds it. It's like a fucking game to try and figure out which genre of Vaporwave you're listening to, but it doesn't really matter. You don't have to get that Rain Man about it. And you may not have listened to Vaporwave, but you've listened to songs that are like Vaporwave. On YouTube, a whole big trend, and especially on TikTok, is different songs slowed down and reverbed, and those are like two very important parts of what makes Vaporwave Vaporwave. It's all slowed down, it's reverbed the shit out of, and it's just something nice and chill and relaxed to listen to. And so yeah, I just want to talk to you guys about Vaporwave. It's fun stuff. You got cool aesthetics that everyone already knows, but they don't know that they know. Vaporwave, it's music for a time that already happened, and it's music for a time that hasn't really happened, but that doesn't matter. It sounds cool, and